that was the first time I think I clocked something is wrong with me. Not in a way that something is wrong with me and I want to solve it. Something is wrong with me. It's making other people uncomfortable. When I don't feel good, I'm not going to share anymore.
So Miss Stephanie Matsuba.
Yes. Matsuba.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just kind of excited to hear about just your whole story and how you grew up and your background. And then we're going to get into sort of what you do and fitness and your energy and where it comes from. We're going to talk about mental health and your journey with mental health. So let's just start with you. And who you are, where you're from, what makes you you. Just sort of launch in and I don't know, tell me. I'm just excited to talk to you because you're such a unique energy to you. Aww. And that's what just made me want to sit down and, I don't know, get to know you.
Thank you for saying that because I think what's so funny about you being in class was how I used to follow along with you at a different workout.
Yeah. I know.
Which is always the most pressure when I have someone come in that I know it all. But with you, I used to literally follow you. So when you came into K class, I was like, oh my God, not nerd. No, I was it was a lot of pressure.
Because I'm so compulsive.
No,
that's
totally.
why.
But I was also maybe she hates it. I don't know. She doesn't, how could you follow me?
No.
No, but you're the best.
That's
really
kind. Thank you.
But yeah, so I'm so excited that we get to actually hang and talk.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from Orange County.
Okay.
And grew up there mostly, but I'm half Haitian, half Japanese. My dad is Japanese from Hawaii.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of got connected to being in Hawaii. I was living there a lot in my grown up years.
Grown up meaning your
no, growing up
teens?
21 ish or something. Yeah. But back and forth in college, I went to USC.
Okay.
But most of everything that I do now is all around health overall.
And how did you get into that?
Well, I'm an artist and actress and fitness instructor. And I think a lot of the things that I was drawn to growing up had to do with just expressing myself or any form of just finding what felt normal for me. I mean, we were Black and Asian living in a predominantly white environment.
In the OC. Yeah.
And so just even growing up, there were little things that I think I wanted to do just to fit in. So that took me to sports or gymnastics or plays or whatever that it was. But during that time also, I was, a very sensitive kid, I guess you could say, or I had some maybe not idiosyncrasies, but nuances that I was felt and was experiencing. So, but I feel when I got to high school, those things started getting more and more prominent and interrupting some of these things I loved, like health and fitness and playing sports, or I would feel really uncomfortable or irritable in social settings out of nowhere. It was very personable, likable. I loved being involved with lots of different activities. But yeah, in high school, there was a little bit of a shift with me just in terms of how I could connect. And that was one thing that I think kind of brought me to health because I got very sick when I was in high school, my junior year.
What happened?
I started having some physical pain in my stomach. I had cysts that needed to be removed. It was always something that was coming up, but nothing chronic, consistent. My junior year, I remember it was the homecoming dance and we had, the big thing and the homecoming court, and I was very involved and I hadn't been feeling good leading up to that. I thought, I'll be feeling better by the time that's over. So we have the big dance, it's all great. And then the next morning I woke up and honestly, Amy, I had this feeling in my stomach where I just couldn't even explain or articulate what it was. But I remember going home to my parents, I was like, something is wrong.
Were they receptive to you?
Oh yeah. My mom was a nurse. My dad is a surgeon.
Oh, okay.
So they're very, anytime I didn't feel good, they're always like not even them diagnosing. They're like, okay, let's go to the doctor. But this was the first time where we couldn't really figure out what it was. And then that's when I stopped going to school.
So you stopped going to school?
It wasn't intentional, like, and now Stephanie doesn't go to school. It was just every day I would wake up, I didn't feel good. And it was like, I can't do it. Or I would wake up and go halfway through the day and be so sick I had to come home.
Oh my God. So what happened? So what did the doctors say? What did your parents say?
So when we started going to the doctor, one of the things that came up was that it could be my gallbladder,
Mm-hmm.
and especially that year, we were, it's high school, you're eating Del Taco, you're eating stuff that maybe could be triggering it. And they looked and they said, okay, after some time, they said, I think we need to remove her gallbladder. And so, my parents could see that that felt like an aligned thing to do. They wanted me to feel better. So we went through and I had that procedure.
What kind of surgeon was your dad?
He's a plastic surgeon,
Okay.
but specializes in hands.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. My dad's so funny. He's like, my parents are great. Like the most different, but similar people you could ever meet, if that makes sense.
And you were like 16, 17 years old?
I was 15.
15. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's so young to have your gallbladder removed.
It's so young. And it was so young, I think, just to be in the hospital.
Yeah.
So it was laparoscopic. So the surgery wasn't, it still hurt really bad, but it wasn't as.
They didn't have to open you up and the whole 9 yards. Okay.
No. So I went home the same day.
Mm-hmm.
Afterward, the recovery, was just normal things that we'd be experiencing. And then I still didn't feel good after that. And when they did go in, they're like, her gallbladder was inflamed, but not as much as the pain threshold, is what she was describing. And still that same feeling. And honestly, that was the first time I think I clocked something is wrong with me. Not in a way that something is wrong with me and I want to solve it. Something is wrong with me. It's making other people uncomfortable. When I don't feel good, I'm not going to share anymore.
Oh.
Because you see, it's like,
totally.
My parents are super supportive and they're trying to help and
They're
everybody
worried.
wants to help. My teachers, the whoever, and now I'm getting tutored so I can go be still moving forward with school and not have to repeat. Like, I remember when we sat down to talk about repeating high school, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Repeating what? Repeating my
like junior
year?
And that's such a huge year. Yeah.
But really, that was the first time where I remember thinking, I don't think this is something I should talk about anymore. And if I don't feel good, maybe I'm making it up, or.
I was going to say, you convinced yourself that you were making it up, or it wasn't as bad as you were sort of allowing yourself to feel or telling people?
I think both. I think it was feeling different already growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And then allowing myself to feel like, oh, it's not misplaced that I still feel different with this other thing. And maybe everybody wakes up feeling this way, and I'm just the only one that's talking about it.
Okay. Did you have good friends?
Yeah.
Did you talk to them?
I did, but I think it's high school. It's like everybody should rather talk about boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah. Or they're cramps, Stephanie. Like everyone has cramps. They're like, maybe there's your period cramps.
You don't feel good? Like, didn't you just have surgery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the disconnect too, because then if I am involved in these things, then I'm not present.
Right.
And it's not like everyone's like, oh, where's Stephanie? They're in their own stuff.
Yeah.
But I was still good. I wasn't too concerned until they said I had to repeat school. I've never really asked my parents. I'm sure they were probably very concerned. But the hardest part, I think, would be when I would go back to school and then just not make it through the day and have to go home.
So after that, did you go to school full time? Did you go back to school full time, or did you stay home?
I went back to school. I think that happened at the beginning of the year. And then towards the end of the year was when I started just tutoring all the time to get caught up. I did all my AP tests, all my SATs, everything I was able to do, start the college admission process, which a lot of what I was going to be doing was for acting anyway. So it's going to be auditioning, but still had to do, you've been through it, all of the apps and everything. So that was when we were hitting summer, and they had set it up for me that I could do essentially my own summer school to get everything done.
Okay.
And then senior year just showed up and, went into school. I still didn't feel good, but I had normalized it. Like that was my, what do you say? There's something that you say that I love.
No, you're
No,
normal.
you're normal. Yes. So I had allowed my normal to be not feeling good and not talking about it.
So you had, by the time, and you were, why were you so young in high school?
I went to kindergarten early.
Okay.
I don't know if it was a logistical thing or what, but when we were living on the East Coast and we moved here, I think, I don't know if there was a spot in kindergarten and not in preschool or what, but
something. Okay.
I went
so
to
you
kindergarten early.
graduated high school at 16 or 17 years old?
17.
17. So by that point, you're okay. So you're just a little young. So by the time you were basically 16 years old, your normal pretty consciously was to feel a certain level of pain pretty much at all times. And to tell yourself that that was okay. Yeah. And to not talk about it anymore with your parents and probably your friends and your sister because you didn't want to be a burden to anyone and you wanted to be able to continue to be at school with your same age friends and you didn't want to not participate in the activities that you liked. So you just sort of said, and you didn't want to have any more surgeries. No. Because that sucks. No. So you just basically convinced yourself that that was your normal and you were going to move forward in life saying, I have these pains that are real, but I'm okay. And I'm just going to deal with it. And that's my norm, like, is what it is.
Exactly.
Okay. So then you graduated from high school.
Graduated from high school.
Went to college.
Went to USC for acting. Loved it there.
How was living on your own?
Ooh. I mean, okay.
Because I mean, that's hard for, as now, I remember what it was like for me living on my own, but in the thick of it being a mom with kids who are now living on their own, it's hard. And my guess is it was also hard dealing with that.
Oh my goodness, of course. And I think one thing that I always thought with not feeling good, and with not feeling good, it was like sometimes I physically felt sick or I felt, almost just like overwhelming, like I just couldn't do anything, And at that time too, when I did have that surgery, I forgot to mention this part, I probably gained.
Actually, I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I think minimum 60 pounds, like 60 to, but it's like I was going to school, usually going to school, doing volleyball, all of the different things, even just walking around to
so then you were
coming home.
And then you were home,
just
doing nothing.
Being at home.
Right.
And what's interesting is that I always thought by saying I didn't feel good, that it was helping the situation. And now I look back, you're like, that wasn't helping anyone. It wasn't helping me. It wasn't helping my parents. It wasn't helping my sister. But when I went to USC, I really, really loved the environment of being there. I felt I wanted to go to college, if that makes sense. I think USC is a good college. And being in the acting, in the theater school was like a good mix. I think being on my own, this was the first time I didn't drink in high school. I was like the first and last at every party, but I didn't drink. And that's when I was introduced to like drinking and partying, and alcohol was a huge, huge component of self-medication. All of a sudden I found something that felt different. I don't know if it felt good, but it definitely took me out of what I felt was the normal, which was the not feeling good normal.
Yeah. It took you out of your head. It took you out of like reality. Allowed you to sort of check out.
Absolutely. And made me really popular.
Yeah. Yeah. And fun and all the things.
Of
Yeah,
course.
Totally.
Of course.
Of course.
So living on my own, I think that was the biggest difference. I had never been, I was never drinking. I was never on my own in terms of eating. And, I would do things like eat a whole jar of peanut butter, but not know why. And just be like, okay, that happened. And not purging.
Yeah.
Just normal.
Yeah. At 4 a.m.
Yeah. I just ate. I'm like, well, but she just ate a grilled cheese and she's drunk and just ate nachos. And I did this. So I guess that's normal.
Yeah.
So towards the end of my freshman year, and I'd done so many things. I was in this huge play. It was like a big deal to be a freshman in a big play. And I remember being so excited and I was doing really well. I started declining and I had a hard time going to school again and getting up. And I wasn't even going to the parties at this point. I just couldn't get up. And this was when I first discovered just watching entire seasons of television were
in your dorm room.
something I could do. And so that's what I started doing. I would still drink on my own, which I do think was a little funny, but at the time I didn't think so. I was like, this is like a Bacardi, whatever, spritzer. But yeah. And so I stopped going to school again, which led to my grades. My first semester, excellent. My second semester was such a flip. And then having to talk to teachers, explaining to them why I wasn't going to school. And then hiding to my parents, my friends, that I wasn't going to school. Because since I was in the acting program and a lot of my friends weren't, they didn't know.
What your
we had no
schedule
class
was.
overlap.
Yeah.
No. So that was, I think, one of the hardest things I've ever done was coming home after school. After that, and then that summer telling my parents that I'd done really bad in school that second semester and that I'd stopped going. And
how did your parents react?
They always come from a place of love and compassion, but I can't imagine what they were thinking. And they weren't like confrontational, like, what? They were more just shocked, I think, and probably shocked that I'd been hiding it. Because since my parents in Orange County, I would still go home,
Yeah.
And they were just coming from a place of like, how can we make this better? Are you feeling better? Very supportive. But again, the guilt of like, my parents paid for me to go through to USC.
Yeah.
All expenses, everything. Yeah. And so many of my friends not having that and knowing that and just having a big form of shame around it, which I was already feeling so much shame for years and years. So that was tough. And then going back my sophomore year, and that summer I did an acting program. I was all right that summer. Came back sophomore year and the same thing kind of cycled. But I got really honestly, I got so good at showing up to things and then coming home and like actually crashing out, like laying on the floor. But I learned so much how to exert just the perfect amount of energy for people to think that I was normal, I was fine, and that I was doing really great.
For people, including yourself, I guess.
Especially myself.
Did anyone ever in those like years between junior year, senior year of high school and freshman year of college, did anyone ever say to you, a professor, anyone, there's counseling offices, there's people to talk to, your advisor. Did anyone ever bring that up?
So interesting you asked that, because in high school, when I missed all of school, that's when I started seeing a therapist.
Oh, really?
Both inside of school and outside of school.
Okay.
My therapist outside of school is actually a funny story because she ended up, it's not funny, but she ended up, was great, but she had a nervous breakdown.
Oh, God.
Which is actually cursed me out once.
Which is not the first time I've heard that, which is sort of interesting. Yeah.
And especially, I think back to it now, I was her oldest patient. So I don't know what her life was like, but it seemed like it was intense.
Yeah.
And we had had a confrontation. So she left, but
not helpful.
Not helpful. It's a form of not even dating, but like finding the right therapist is a really, really, really important.
Very.
And if you have one that's like a special relationship, then to move into a different one is really, really tough.
Yeah.
I was still also seeing a therapist at USC. And again, like my parents are very health overall. We never saw it like mental health, physical health. It's just like, this is what we do. You go to the doctor, you have resources for other things. My therapist during my first 2 years of college was helpful by way of them being like, with your situation with not going to class, we need to get notes. You need to be communicative in this way in person. Some of the professors, very, very understanding. Some very not.
Yeah.
And one in particular, I remember was like, the least you could do is like show up to this conversation groomed. And I remember thinking, excuse me, because I also was at a point where I thought I looked fine.
Yeah.
So I was just like,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about? But like people took notice, but like not really. I was so good at it, and high achieving. And I think high achieving is an important factor because if you are doing well by way of like what people could write down, it allows there to be a layer of not concerned or not looking, I guess. And then that's what I felt was already a part of my identity pretty effortlessly. So I just leaned into that a little bit more.
So what point did sort of everything, I feel like you're leading up to something crashing.
Wait, I'm dying.
I don't want to laugh about it, but I feel like that's what, or giggle about it. I'm not laughing at you, but I'm saying it feels like we're leading into, and sometimes that has to happen, right? Or not sometimes, often. That's what has to happen in order for real change that leads to positivity, a positive change to come about is that it has to crash. It has to, you know, the veil has to come down for not just everyone else around you, but most importantly for yourself.
Absolutely.
So my guess is that happened.
Oh my goodness, 100%. I think, you know, I live with bipolar. And so within that time, and so then in describing really big ups, doing really well, performing really well, being on it.
Being full on
to then I can't go to school. That was the hugest contrast, right? It's like, it'd be much different if I was just smooth, but I would be so up, doing so well. I'm the chief of the head of everything, and everyone trusted me. I had great relationships with people. I didn't feel like I connected with people that easily. I think I was very guarded and I felt comfortable alone in that way. But to the not leaving school was like the biggest contrast. So I think then carrying over, there was like this consistent pattern with high school. High school, I was doing really great. You know, the homecoming queen, what are all those things, to I can't get out of bed. Okay, flash forward to college, doing really well, not doing good, stop going to school, getting better at the cover, learning how to cover. Then it was when I got outside of school, and then I lived abroad a little bit. But I think the danger came from learning that if I was up, people really did not notice. And more importantly, if I was living in an upswing, or now, you know, I would reference as in a more manic state, people loved me. If they were partying, I could stay out for 3 days without stopping, not needing drugs, not needing anything, just be awake, the most fun. You know, I was always like, let's do this, let's do that. Oh my goodness. Versus if I'm not feeling good, no one even knows I exist. So I would lean into the things that would make me really liked. So I think when you're in school, you have a layer of protection because there's a provided structure you have to follow. Then when I got outside of school, there wasn't that structure of not going to class. So there was no reference to what was my normal, even in the going to class or not going to class. And then as I started working professionally, fast forward through the manic partying, that was very confusing, especially to employers, because you are incredible, you know? When you're on, like, wow, this girl is incredible, to absent, missing. Where is she?
Totally MIA.
MIA, completely.
So when were you formally diagnosed?
I was diagnosed when I was 17, which I'm pretty sure they don't have to tell your parents. It was when I was at USC.
And they told you? But you didn't seem to do anything about it?
No. It was when I stopped going to class. They diagnosed me with bipolar 1 at USC, at the USC.
In therapy, I mean, with your counselor at USC?
With counselor sent me to psych.
Okay.
Psych, and I actually, because I was going to psych, I actually did not go to any other physician there. I was just focused on psych.
And you didn't start taking medication?
I was prescribed lithium.
And you took it or no? And you didn't tell your parents?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so
because there's nothing wrong.
But so you were given this diagnosis, but nothing changed.
Nothing.
Okay, because you weren't ready to hear that. You were 17 years old, and you weren't with your parents. No one was really going to then. It was a diagnosis without really like full care. I would describe it as.
Yes, absolutely. A diagnosis without full care
at college, not with a support system, like nothing really, almost like the worst way to give a 17-year-old that diagnosis. 17 is really still a baby. In my opinion, yeah.
I think so too.
It's like this weird, your outsides don't match your insides. Because first of all, a 17-year-old can look 25. A 17-year-old can also look 13.
Absolutely.
But no matter what you look like, a 17-year-old is still, I mean, it's like that dumb, stupid ass Britney Spears song, not yet a woman and still a girl or whatever. But it's true. I mean, you're still so in between. I mean, it's like you're really young. You're really young. You can barely, and most 17-year-olds, by the way, are not in college. Most freshmen in college are 18, almost 19. And nowadays, they're pretty much 19 because almost everyone's held back. So you were really young to be a freshman in college and to be given a diagnosis of bipolar 1 with no support system. So it's totally understandable that you pretty much did nothing with that. So when was your next diagnosis?
And thank you for saying that, because I still am like, why didn't I? But
you can't. I mean, you understandably can, but it's totally unfair. That was an unfair diagnosis to give you at that age by yourself and to prescribe you those drugs without adult supervision. I mean, I don't know. It's just crazy.
Is so many, like everything you said is like what I've been able to intellectualize now, but was just even impossible.
How old are you now?
I'm 30 something.
30 something. Okay. Sure.
I always call myself 30 something. But really I'm 30 something.
Enjoy your age. You're young and beautiful.
Thank you. But no, when I 30 something, to know that like I think I went on the internet and Googled bipolar.
Yeah.
And what came up, Van Gogh.
All sorts of crazy things.
Wild things. Things where I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to chop my ear off. Cynthia, what's the one that Virginia Woolf.
You're going to stick her head in an oven. Yeah.
I'm like, and they were all white.
Yeah.
And they were all old.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I'm definitely not telling anyone about this.
Yeah.
And I got diagnosed again. I had been living in Australia, which was fun. Just know when I graduated from college, I decided not to pursue my acting and to take a break and go to Australia. In my junior year, though, when I went through a bad depression again at USC, the same thing happened. This time I gained probably close to 80 pounds.
Oh my God. What did your parents say?
They would be so confused. They were, again, like, I think the dialogue that was the miss there was me lying, or me being like,
physical weight gain of that much weight as a parent. I just wonder, like, obviously they were just so concerned, but were hesitant to like do anything. I don't know what I guess I don't know what I would do. I have a son who has GI issues, and he's gone up and down in weight because he can have a trigger and get really sick and spend 2 weeks not being able to eat and vomiting and diarrhea and then he'll lose like 20, 30 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And then he'll gain weight. And so, and my husband and I are like, what do we do? And he's never gained that. He's never gained 80 pounds, but he's like, he'll be up like 10, 15 pounds or 20 pounds. And we're like, we just want you to be healthy. We need you at this age in your life, he's 22. We want you to like figure out how to eat healthily, work out properly. You're in your 20s. Now's the time where you gain muscle, and you should be healthy. Like, you should physically, mentally, emotionally be healthy.
Absolutely.
Like, this is the time of your life where you build those patterns to carry you through the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Eat, sleep, work out, be physically strong, as well as all the other pillars. Once one pillar goes down, they all break down. Like, this is when you have to learn it. So, but every parent's different, and and we are now sensitive, but that is a lot of weight to gain for your child. But I don't know.
I think one thing, and I've looked back at this,
and I'm not putting shame on your parents. I'm just wondering what they were saying.
I think it's interesting too. And I like another thing you said that was like, that I'd listened to or seen, and I don't know the exact wording, but it was like, when you see your parents as people.
Yeah.
And I think the way I hold weight is different than other people.
Totally.
So
And it's about over a period of time and
yeah,
all
and like
the things.
my freshman 15 or, the thing that
Mine
they
was
called,
a freshman 25, by the way. Totally.
There were still like just enough justifications. And my mom would always come from a place of like, she was never an extreme dieter, but she'd be like, everybody, like, let's do this healthy thing together and it'll make us feel good. And, but I really wonder now, like what they had to have been thinking. I've never asked them. And again, it's like, I was so good at just I never was like at home or upset, like, oh my gosh, I'm so heavy and I feel this way. It was like, that was a part of my persona and I was body positive before it was cool.
Yeah.
I sometimes see things, I'm like, you all have no idea what this was like.
And maybe that was it too. It was like, if it was never a thing, then it was never a thing too. And you were like, I look amazing, so whatever.
Absolutely. And everyone loves me and I look like
what are you going to do? Be like, you don't look good? Yeah. No. So then it is what it is.
And I think so in that diagnosis when I was a junior, so it was like I was diagnosed when I was 17, bipolar 1.
Mm-hmm.
Junior year, experience of depression again. Well, waking up my senior year, the first semester, I had started this process of losing weight, almost not in secret, but kind of. And, to lose a lot of weight takes a lot of time, a lot of independence, a lot of
and you were doing it consciously.
Mm-hmm. By the time it was my last semester of my senior year at USC, I really wanted to be acting full time when I graduated. And I saw that as something that felt very purposeful and easy and straightforward. And I was like, oh, okay, well, now's the time that I need to get myself ready for that. And that includes this because there were also, again, no plus size, larger people on TV, especially women.
Yeah. So you're in LA. You look around, you're like, I get it.
You're like, oh, okay, wait, I want to sign with an agent. I'm I'm mixed race. I need to look like this. And I just stopped drinking, stopped going out partying. Not easy, but I joined a gym downtown. I would go start working out at 4 a.m, take a spin class at 5, probably do something on campus, and just started a pretty extreme discipline of working out. I lived next door to a lot of the football players. I just pretty much put myself on the same schedule as them and just was like, okay, if they're eating, I'm eating. If they're working out, I'm working out, and just started taking care of my body that way. What I think was tricky was when that semester, I lost like close to 60 pounds probably in a short amount of time. So that was when everybody noticed. When you lose weight,
everyone notices.
Everyone notices.
Of course.
And that messed with me a lot. And that put me towards a more manic cycle because then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be looking like slim all the time. And I have to be like this. Otherwise people aren't going to compliment me and I'm not going to feel good. And oh my gosh, I want to look like Kerry Washington, or whoever. But again, I'm still living with this diagnosis, hiding it. The over-exercising is the worst you can do for me with towards mania. And also the worst thing I could do that would heighten coming down, like taking such a high up into a manic state or even a hypomanic state. The higher you go, the further you have to fall for me. So
and you weren't taking any medication?
No medication. The exercise at baseline is great because of the discipline of like sleeping. I wasn't sleeping that much. So because I could justify it by the working out of like, oh, I have to be up at 4, I have to go work out. It's like people are like, oh my gosh, she's so disciplined, But so again, it's like it's its own drug of being addicted to getting the feedback of being so disciplined. And so then my next diagnosis came. I went to Australia. When I came back a couple of different times, jet lag is one of my biggest triggers for my depression. Life events, jet lag, like a major loss. But the jet lag is a huge one. So going back and forth from Australia.
Which makes sense. I mean, all your organs get affected when you're jet lagged. You don't sleep well, your dehydration. But really, I mean, all your organs are upside down. You don't go to the bathroom properly. It's all your organs are upside down. So it would, messes with your just ability to like synthesize and be stable. And
No, that's exactly it. It's like it for anyone, it turns you upside down. Yeah. And so that was huge. That put me into my biggest depression I'd ever had. And I don't live with suicidal ideation. Actually, my most dangerous moments with, the conditions that I have are my lack of ability to differentiate between when I'm making decisions or if things are just happening recklessly, haphazardly. If you're in a manic state, you're not like, wow, I'm in a manic state. I wasn't speaking out loud that I had anything that I was living with. So it wasn't as easy to navigate. So no, I don't live with suicidal ideation. Am I putting myself into incredibly compromising and dangerous situations? Yes. Am I doing that on a regular basis? Yes, because I'm within a state that's very dangerous, living with what I live with. Same thing within a depression. Am I having suicidal ideation? No. However, I can't tell why I don't feel good.
Right.
Now I'm not taking care of myself. There's things that are happening that are bad. I can't groom myself. My hair is in dreadlocks, but I'm hiding it. Things like that where you really, and for me again, it's like you do a good job of hiding till you can't. And for me, that was when I moved to Hawaii. I started living with my grandmother in Hawaii, who I absolutely adore. And there's mental health on both sides of my family, specifically on my Japanese side. And living there was...
Is your grandmother on your Japanese side?
So it's my grandmother on my Japanese side. And ironically, everyone that has a mental health illness has at one point lived with her.
Oh.
And now
Did you know that when you went and lived with her?
I knew that certain members of our family had lived with her. Bipolar, one of my cousins was always very vocal about having and living with bipolar. It's a huge part of our identity. So I had heard that word more commonly there, but again, it's associated with her experience. But I was seeing a doctor there, a psychiatrist, who diagnosed me again, bipolar 1, prescribed me lithium plus another drug I can't remember, still by way of being, living in Hawaii and being with my grandma, who had, I see now, understood what to do with what was going on with me, helped create structure without it being labeled as anything, with eating healthy, sleeping, exercise, responsibility, accountability, purpose. Could I figure all those things out at once? No, but the integration of even just one thing. That's why with the walking, why I'm so passionate about walking, because just waking up to go for a walk changed the course of my entire day. If I can't get up, but if I wake up to go for a walk, I'm up, or if I am going to go walking with my grandma in the morning, maybe I'm not doing a bender for 3 days because I'm living at my grandma's house. I'm not going to do that, know? And then just the implementation of like simple things of like exercise, but not over exercising. And because I had to be home for dinner, little things that now looking back helped me find out what were the best ways for me to be managing what I was living with without it being like, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And people say like, oh my gosh, walking, eating, that's not a big deal. For me, those things are a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They keep you regulated. They keep you
completely
on your routine. They keep you moving, like quite literally moving forward and focusing on one thing at a time, which is what I guess you need to get through your day.
Just like one thing at a time, and really, really, I have to have structure, which I think sometimes I still have shame around. I have so much shame around so many things, but
I love structure.
I would guess that you do.
I love structure. Structure is a fabulous thing.
Structure is the best.
I think nothing is wrong with structure.
I don't think there's anything wrong with structure. I think I
think structure is a very adult thing. So.
It's adult. It's very adult. Structure is adult.
It's actually an all thing. I think children need structure. I think teenagers need structure.
Yes.
I think one of the hardest things actually about going to college is you lived your life with a lot of structure and then you have no structure.
Absolutely.
So this idea that you woke up every day and were at school from 8 to 3 and then most kids did something after school.
Absolutely.
And they came home and then they ate dinner and then they did homework and then they maybe did something else little and then they went to bed. All of a sudden you go to college and you have one class a day, maybe two, and you have all this rest of your day to fill.
You have so much time.
And you're supposed to figure out how to make structure out of that all on your own. And that is very hard. I mean, I just had this conversation with my middle child where he was telling me, he was like, I feel like my sophomore year, he's going to his sophomore year. I feel like my sophomore year is a redo of my freshman year. And I said, it is not. I said, your freshman year was really hard. Your freshman year was figuring it out. And your sophomore year is your way to build on that. And I said, don't be ashamed if it takes you 4 years to figure out how to find balance. That's what college is about. I said, the expectation for you to do well in school is absolutely there. That's what your dad and I expect of you. But it'll take you 4 years to figure out your balance, how to do well in school while taking care of yourself, while being able to get sleep at night, while staying healthy and feeding yourself properly, while working out, and while having a social life. And being able to balance all of those things will take you 4 years with no structure that you have to figure out. That's really hard for an 18 to 22-year-old. So structure is great. And the hardest part of being an adult is figuring that out for yourself.
Yes.
And I think it's even harder now for your generation, being a 30-something, because there's so many people your age who have jobs that lack structure. Right? So instead of doing what we did, which was getting up and going to an office all day, 5 days a week from 9 to 5 or, 9 to 7, there are so many people who don't do that, who go to an office 2 or 3 days a week. Or don't go to an office at all. Exactly. Who work for themselves, who work on their own, who teach a class, a couple days a week, a couple hours a week, and then have all this other time that you're expected to fill in order to support yourself. That is really, really hard. And so it takes a lot of time just to figure out how to build structure in your day.
Completely.
And that's a really hard thing. And it's not just you, someone who has bipolar. It's everyone needs that. Because all of a sudden, if you want to have whatever family looks like to you and have kids or not, you have to have that.
You have to have it.
So don't feel like it's a crazy thing, and don't feel like it's just a you thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really an adult thing.
That's true. That's true.
People who want to become adults should at some point in their 20s and 30s
some form of
need to figure out some form of structure.
Yes.
Other ways, your days are just like wishy-washy. And in order to find purpose and accountability and responsibility and the ability to support yourself and build family, whatever that looks like again, you have to have structure.
Absolutely.
So
I see,
don't put so much
thank you. And
hardship
also,
on yourself
I'm
about
so
that.
grateful that you just did that, because I feel very empowered, because I think you bring up a really great point, which is we live in a very different, even from when I went to high school to now, are like light years away from each other. Like, I remember getting a Facebook, when it was still called the Facebook. It's like there are so many things that are so different. And I think that's why almost, not like it's like uncool to have structure, but there is this, and this is why I feel really passionately about burnout or certain work cultures that are focused on, one thing is like what success looks like. Because, for me, and by the way, when I was diagnosed with bipolar 1, I do not live with bipolar 1. I live with bipolar 2. So it's like even that, the management of those illnesses on 2 different people, totally different. And structure, as like a good example, simple structure that I can follow every day that we all are trying to figure out. We're just trying to figure out how to be grown-ups, be alive, is like still can be like such a challenging, tricky thing. But if you go outside of that, like I worked in tech startup, and what's celebrated? You work the most. You work the most hours. You put in the most time, you're the smartest, you're the brightest, you have the best ideas. That takes you outside of structure, actually in a way that could be really dangerous for anybody, because you can't sustain it, or you're only appreciated if you do that, or you do create really well when you're doing that, and then the expectation maybe is off. But like structure is the foundation of like everything in terms of like how I'm able to take care of myself. And I think the shame actually comes from me thinking, without this, or because I'm so different. But the absence of structure sends me sideways. So
what do you do now? Do you take medication to keep yourself balanced? And then you also work on daily structure, daily, weekly, monthly structure, however that looks like. And what about your support system?
Yeah, I think like there's two things that I think really helped me.
And obviously you're so open and honest about your journey now, which my guess is a huge help.
Completely. And I think not everyone has that luxury, I guess. But, I had my illness for the majority of my entire life. This is really recent that I've been able to start talking about it. What led me to that point, really large episodes, and that's why you're like, it's building, because it really was. It was like holding my breath for years and years and years until physically, mentally, emotionally, you just couldn't. So after the event of that, you don't really have a choice. And then the choice comes from not the choice you make immediately after. For me, it was the choice to really start to figure this out, which carried only shame.
Yeah.
Shame, shame, shame. We'll flash forward. I received the correct diagnosis with bipolar 2, which helped me get to a better point. I did decide to start trying medication. Took a lot of time.
Yeah.
And can constantly change. I think the hardest thing for me with bipolar is that it's not going away. No matter what medicine I take, what anything, I could have another episode soon. I think that's the most frustrating thing I have now. I could be doing all of the things, taking all of the medicine, and still go super down or super up. What I've noticed keeps me on the smaller wave, a little bit of medicine, consistent therapy, structure, health overall, not aesthetic driven health, doing things that make me feel healthy, and support system.
Yeah.
And my support system will always be like my immediate family, my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother-in-law, and two of my friends who live with the same illness.
Yeah.
It's a commitment. You have to, it's not just, I want to be your friend, I want to support you. There's a huge cost. I've had a lot of costs in relationships. Relationships are very difficult for me to manage.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Romantic, friendship, anything.
Yeah.
Because what would be required in exchange, maybe I can't be the person that they need as a support system, or vice versa. But that's been like my biggest recipe for success, I think. And then, of course, speaking openly and honestly about who I am and creating art, which is why I have a one-woman show that's all about these things. But I think, look, I'm half Black, I'm half Asian, stigmatized on both sides very intensely, especially the Black community, and honestly, especially the Asian community. No therapy, no medicine, no access. We're incredibly marginalized. And even now, I do a lot of work speaking with high schoolers, or there's an organization I work with called Your Mom Cares. They work a lot with, like young kids, teens. What I love about that is it's not medicinal in sharing information. It just feels like normal and regular. But with some high schools, I'll be asked to go speak to schools with very underprivileged students. And I have to ask a lot of questions because it's, number one, really important for me to know the purpose of why I'm coming to speak.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, with me providing them with information and resources, if they're going to go home and say what I said and get their butt kicked for even bringing up that type of conversation in the home, like that's not going to be helpful. Like, is there going to be consistent dialogue and support system in this school to help them feel supported?
Yeah.
Is there an organization that they'll be able to know they can contact so they don't have to bring it into the home?
Yeah.
Because what's most realistic, like I sit in a very unique circumstance where my family was on this journey with me with no cost of my relationship with my family.
Yeah.
But I could never suggest to, a 13-year-old, and then you go to your parents and you tell them you don't feel good, and you need therapy, or however way they would receive it, and hearing this thing. And what a lot of times is too is like people want to hear the details of a manic episode, or people want to hear the details of, I share mine because I think it's relevant, because there's signals that I think come as you're coming of age. But it's something I feel very purposeful about. It's why I think that I'm very purposeful about creating art about this specifically, because I think it's an easy gateway.
Yeah.
Same thing with health and fitness.
Yeah.
It's an easy gateway to take. If you're taking care of yourself in one way, it can typically translate other ways. But I just want to be one example of what this looks like for someone that looks like me, because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it would have been like if I had, I don't know. We never will know, but I don't know what it would have looked like if I hadn't Googled bipolar and seen Vincent Van Gogh first and nobody else,
Yeah.
But I think that that's something that and I know I really respect and admire a lot of the work that you're doing, because I think a lot of people are scared to go to the doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Like terrified.
Yeah, they are.
I
mean, your original, how we started when you were young and you were feeling things, and then you didn't like the way that it was making people around you feel, right? You didn't want to be a burden. You didn't want to be making everyone around you feel uncomfortable or feel like they had to go on this journey with you because it was taking over, what felt like their lives. And so you were like, I'm just going to power through. I mean, that is a normal way that most women, girls, women, that's the road they take. They listen to sort of the feelings that are going on around them. Going into a doctor's office, having a doctor tell you what's going on with you, listening, even when you know in your gut that that's not the right answer, 9.9 times out of 10, we take that as truth. It's very intimidating. It's very real to be in that situation and say, okay, you must know better. You went to school for this. This is your specialty. You must know better. And it takes a lot of guts, and it takes a lot of, in Yiddish we say chutzpah. It just takes a lot of it to be like, no, I've got to go find someone else. I've got to go find someone else or 5 more people to figure out what's going on with me. And it's hard, and it can take years to get to that point. So the best thing I can say is good for you, because it didn't actually take that long for you. It feels like it took a long time, and it feels like your journey was really tumultuous. But the time that you went through the worst part of it sounds like was kind of during college and those years after it, which are tumultuous times already, which is doubly horribly hard. But my guess is that you had to go through that, right? Like the buildup had to happen. And the lucky part, if we want to find the silver lining, was you have such a wonderful support system, and that you have your parents and your sibling and your grandma, and that you also have people in your family who were talking about it, and that you found this path that you can be on, and the acceptance that you found now about yourself and what it means to live with bipolar too, and like really what that means for you, and that you live with it. It's not a cold sore that you can take Valtrex and it'll go away. Like I think that's a really hard thing, and to give yourself the grace that that's a really hard thing, that you live with it, but to live with it and understand that, that this is how you're going to live with it it's really fabulous that you figured that out now in your 30-somethings, and that you do have a wonderful support system that they're all on, at least at this point, you're all on the same page.
Right.
And I think that's, I was sort of crossing my fingers when you started down the road at 15, 16, that you would all be on the same page now. Because I can't think of anything better than you and your parents and your sister and your brother-in-law and you close friends, that you are all on the same page looking out for you, that they are looking out for you. Because that's how you get through the lows. Yes. Right? And that's how you come down back to your normal from the highs, because they know you well enough to know that you're what those highs and lows look like. And I think that you do what attracted me to you from the beginning is just this beautiful energy you put out. And it's not your energy of like the high energy, because you do give that out. It's just a very authentic energy. And my guess is it took you a while to find that. I don't guess it. I've heard it. And not a lot of people have that, Stephanie. And I think it's really beautiful. And I think you should be really proud of yourself, because clearly your journey to find that has been really hard. And But those who have a hard journey to find that are often the most authentic. So there's a lot of people who are really lucky to sort of breathe that in from you. And I feel pretty cool that I get to do that by watching you work out and following you. So it's pretty good. And your story, I think, is really phenomenal that you do share it and you do go into communities, to kids, young people who get to listen to you. Because even if you change one person's life, that's pretty good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having. Oh my gosh, I'm still like, she really
great.
asked me to come.
I did. I thought this would be pretty impactful, and it has been. So
I'm so
for
grateful.
coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Seriously, thank you.
Thanks.